Welcome back to another episode of Technology for Independence with Christopher Cooley. Today, Christopher Cooley is going to be talking about creating accessible communications. So stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of Technology for Independence with Christopher Cooley. Today, Christopher is going to be talking with Dory Pogers about creating accessible communications. And Chris, it's always a pleasure talking with you.
It's a pleasure to be here once again, Patrick. A while back, I got a message from Dory asking about some, programs out there that maybe wanted to work with her. And I thought, it was interesting. And so I reached out to her again to see if she would be a guest here today with me and talk a little bit about herself and the work that she does for our community. March is Disability Awareness Month, and I thought that would be a great opportunity for Dory to come on and talk a little bit about that. Dory, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Yeah, sure. So first, a little bit about me. I am a parent of two kids, and I live in Queens in New York City. I've lived in New York City and have worked in the field of design since I graduated from Boston University in 2005. But for the past 3.5 years, I have been working from home as a design strategist for a team that's inside of the US federal government. And the team is called the Lab at OPM. And really what the lab does is they teach human-centered design methods to people working in agencies throughout the government, which is essentially a methodology to help people figure out how to make government services work better for the people that they serve. I was initially drawn to the field of design because as a kid, I was a pretty good visual artist, and I always wanted to use the skills that I had to solve problems and help people. Another thing about me is that I was born with a rare skin condition that's mostly invisible to other people and mostly unfamiliar even to doctors because it's so rare, but it can impact my ability to walk and run. And there's certain things that I need to do to manage it and limit how much I walk and run. And so growing up with that, having that experience, I had the experience of not often having my needs very well understood, having to explain myself, and also had the experience of people who actually were willing to slow down and stop to understand what I needed and how good that felt to have people pay attention to valuing me and valuing what I needed. And so it's just something that I wanted to do for other people, to give other people that same sense of consideration and belonging using the skills that I have in design. As a visual designer, before I started working for the government, a lot of the ways that I thought about diversity and inclusion in design had more to do with communicating clearly to people so that lots of different audiences could understand what was being communicated, and also representing things visually in an inclusive way so that people who maybe are generally underrepresented could see themselves or felt that they're being spoken to through the things that were being communicated. It wasn't until I started working for the US government that I became familiar with legal requirements to make things accessible for people with disabilities. And so in this job, I had to learn about plain language requirements and 508 compliance. And so that was a turning point for me that really has deepened and made me a better designer by having to learn not just about how to design things to be visually accessible and visually inclusive, but also the learning the back-end production and reason why it's important to design things in a way that someone who's using a screen reader to get the information is able to use that screen reader effectively to navigate the information and access all of the same content as somebody who doesn't use a screen reader.
I know that a lot of us do use screen readers and accessible tools on our iPhone and on our, computers, and it's really helpful that, businesses and different websites know that having their website being accessible is important for individuals with multiple disabilities. A lot of times it gets overlooked because the individuals that are creating these don't think about it because they're not in that community and they don't see a need until somebody brings it up and says, hey, we need this to be more accessible for our community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, the law, the requirements is just a starting point to bringing that, that mandatory step that we have to make sure that it's there. But there's so much to learn. It's not an easy process to make sure that things are accessible and usable for someone who's using a screen reader. And there's a lot that I have had to learn, and even having learned what I have, I know now that it takes a lot of time and a lot of thoughtfulness to do it well. And so it's something that I've been trying to figure out, trying to share across my broader team and the people I work with in the government. I want to make sure that that everyone across the government really understands why we need to make things 508 compliant, why we need to make things accessible for people using screen readers. I want them to understand what it actually means. And then a lot of people really need to learn tactically what they need to do to design something that is going to work well for a screen reader. So there's a lot to learn. And then once we learn it, there's a lot that has to be planned for to make sure that enough time is given to make sure that those steps are taken and that something is made screen reader accessible. It's not something that can effectively be just done at the very end after somebody has designed something only to be consumed visually.
Have you guys thought about reaching out to the community to see if the programs work?
Yes. And in fact, so the whole premise of human-centered design, this is the methodology that our team is trying to spread throughout the US government as really a way of innovating government. It's a whole process and practice of learning about the people that you are trying to serve, quickly trying things out and making something to test it out, and then doing some tests with those people to see if the thing that you are trying to make work for them is working for them. So learning from the people that you're actually making something for is integral to what we do. And it's something that I see as an opportunity for accessibility, for us to find more opportunities to work together with people who have different disabilities, to have them be collaborators with us in designing government services that in a way that is going to work well for them, to have them come in as testers and test out whether something is really working as we intended. A lot of what we're doing is just based on theoretical principles that we've learned about making something accessible, but it's really important, and something I want to do more of is to work with people who have different disabilities to actually test things out and see if it's working and understand what kinds of improvements we can make.
So if somebody wants to be a tester, how would they go about doing something like that? Or is that something that the community can do?
I am trying to figure out how to bring together networks. The thing is, the US government there's lots of parts to the government, and there's a lot of people doing work all over the government to improve things. I can volunteer myself as a representative of the lab at OPM as someone that people can reach out to if you're interested in working on projects to design better experiences for people who interact with the US government. You could reach out to me and I can provide my contact information. There is another organization called the United States Digital Service that is also involved in working across the government to design the government's digital experiences. And there's also communities of people inside the government who are trying to learn from each other to create better customer experiences for all government services. And one of those communities is the Customer Experience Center of Excellence. So that's another group that I can connect you to, where they would be really interested in knowing who's out there that is interested in providing their unique life experience and expertise in this area.
Would you say that a individual by themselves could be a tester, or are you looking for multiple disability board that work with multiple disability?
I think that it depends on the project, but we would be interested in having connections to both individuals who identify as having certain disabilities. If they're willing to try things out, we're looking to learn about individuals' experiences, how they move through different steps in a process, emotionally what they're feeling as they're going through this. So it's really valuable to speak to individual people, but we also don't want to burden individuals in some cases. Sometimes we want to learn things that maybe an advocacy group already understands something about the experiences of the groups that they support, and we can talk to them and ask them other questions. So I think depending on what we're hoping to learn about, both would be really great resources for us.
I think Ohio Tech Ambassador Program will be a great program to be able to connect with you guys because, we're out there, we're bringing awareness about technology, remote support, and I think that this is awesome for our program to be able to, get involved and help promote different programs like that.
The one other thing I would want to share is that on top of being a tester or an advisor on a project to improve something specific about the government, I would also say that the government needs more people working inside of it who have disabilities. And in fact, there are policies that have driven a special hiring authority called Schedule A, that gives preference to people who have disabilities to get jobs in the US government. And so anyone can go to usajobs.gov to see what kinds of jobs are available inside of the US government. And Schedule A is really a way that you can declare that you have a disability. You don't have to say what kind of disability you have. And that can be a way giving you an advantage to get jobs in the government. And then the government really benefits from having people with the diversity of perspectives that the American people have. So that's another thing I would mention, and I think is a really important way that we can shape better government experiences for everybody.
That is great information because, our government needs to have people like our community to work for them. So they are aware of things that we need in our community and be able to help us. Sign language interpreters, we need more of that visible. We need, to be out there and seen. And I think that, that's great to know because, some of us could be able to get a job or, job coaches that are out there helping find a job. That's a great information for them to be able to, step back and say, wow, that's great information. So I'm going to help my client or individual to maybe find a job in that position.
There's you'd be surprised how many different kinds of jobs there are to be done in the government. So really any kind of skill set that you have, it's really worth a look.
What is the next step that you guys are working on?
Me personally, I am working on doing the production to make different communications more accessible for people with screen readers. I'm also helping my team understand the processes so that they can do it themselves, so that they can create more accessible communications, in particular, making the courses that we teach inside the government more accessible, making sure that we understand ways to fulfill different accommodations that people need in order to take our classes. And we're helping to take what we learn in our group and share that with other groups in the government so that we can all create better processes for making experiences that are more accessible. Another thing I want to learn more about is the possibilities for AI and how to make more accessible communications, and what are the ways that AI can help us do that maybe more efficiently or effectively. So that's something that I'm planning to learn more about.
Dory, are you finding more and more individuals being very comfortable with those individuals who have major disabilities?
I don't know. I don't know if I have the perspective to answer that question, but I think that people want to learn and they want to know how not to insult people and how to help people. We teach a class. One of the classes that we teach is called Designing Accessible Communications. And we talk not only about the technical aspect of how to make a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation or a PDF screen reader accessible, but we also talk about the words that you use, the colors that you choose, the imagery that you choose, and how to be inclusive in the language that you use. We talk about ways to do introductions. We talk about ways of describing different types of individuals and different communities. I think that all of us, even the ones of us that are teaching the class, have a concern for being respectful for everyone and don't always feel totally sure that we have the right thing to say. So I guess in general, I just see that everyone's on a constant learning journey about how to be kinder, better, more respectful people to everyone, and everyone's trying, and people are at different points in that journey.
Do you have a lot of testers now, or are you hoping to get more in the future?
No, we're definitely trying to get more in the future, and I'm trying to figure out really like a go-to way to say like, okay, we really need people who are hearing impaired to test this thing. So how do we find that person at the moment when we're in the middle of a project and we need testers on a certain timeline? I'm really trying to figure out how we can build a sort of unknown community of people who have already expressed an interest and identified that they have perspectives or certain disabilities that would give them that unique insight and give us the ability to test something for that population.
Have you ever heard of Helen Keller National Center for the Deafblind?
No.
In Long Island?
No.
Yeah, that's a great place to look for testers because they have individuals that are deafblind that are learning how to be independent, how to communicate in their community, how to be able to use technology to be more accessible in their community. As we share this video out, I know that they'll see it and use your contact and be able to use your program to help.
I know that many universities, larger universities, have different groups within the universities that assist not only the student, but the faculty. For instance, Ohio State University has a different set of programs that assist faculty people to better teach. And so are you also affiliating yourself with many of the universities?
Yeah, I think that would be great. We sometimes, I know our specific team, we sometimes have little meetups, virtual meetups where we get to know what different organizations do. We talk about what we do, or if we know that there's something that we share in common, we will share our practices on things, and maybe there's an opportunity for some kind of connection like that between our team and someone in more of the academic.
I know there's a program out there that's called I Can Connect. It's a free program through the government. They help provide computers and braille display and iPhones to individuals that are deafblind or deafness and vision impairment. They're always looking for ways to better the community. And I think, that's a great program that would be interested in looking into everything that you do.
Yeah.
I know the government has in different states remote support team where that it's like having somebody in your home, but you don't have to have that person in your home. It's done remotely. They call you and they check in on you, and they kind of keep you protected and safe in your home and outside your home. Remote support, safe in home. And I know there's a program at OSU. They have a remote support, and they do a lot of smart home things. They help individuals with development disabilities to become more independent in their homes.
It's through the Ohio State University Extension Program. The Extension Program covers all 88 counties in Ohio that does various different educational programs, ranging from aquaculture, agriculture, farming, things of that nature. But also inclusive is the what Chris was talking about, the smart technology, because we have a number of people that with a little bit of technology can continue to be a positive side of our society.
There are many others that are remote support teams, and they are great. I have Safe and Home, and you could go to YouTube and visit that video of me talking about we have the power to live independent, and we have the right to live independent and go out into our communities and be who we are. And Safe and Home and other remote support teams help us to do that and protect us, and help us take our medicines or lock the doors and things like that to help. And I think that a lot of them will be interested in hearing about being a tester, because more they can learn, more they can help individuals in their state.
Yeah, I really appreciate all this, and I appreciate the opportunity to make those connections and have folks help us make things that are going to be more relevant and helpful to everyone in the country.
Dory, we only have about a minute and a half left. Care to share any words of wisdom?
You never know what other people need or what their life experience is, and just assume that everybody is trying to do their best, and different people need different things, and that's normal.
Talking with Christopher Cooley, Technology for Independence, and also talking with Dory Pogers about accessibility communications and creating an environment that allows individuals to utilize their abilities as best as possible. Dory, Christopher, thank you.
Thank you.